When I went to bed last night after the game had ended, I thought and hoped I would be waking up to know that it was just all a big fat nightmare. Unfortunately, that was not the case. 4-0 defeat at the hands of Villa after last week providing a performance that was completely contrasting. This was just about one of the worst games I think I've ever seen in terms of what an Everton outfit have put out onto the park. And that was just absolutely atrocious. I mean, you can never rule out the possibility that Everton will not find a new way to disappoint, and they did exactly that today. It was a lot of the same from last season. We talk about personnel being the same from last season, the higher-ups being the same from last season, and obviously with all that, the performances are unsurprisingly the exact same from last season. Let's dive into the analysis or review, if you will. And we're going to start with the all-impossible task of trying to find any positives out of the performance. We're going to do this now because it's going to be relatively quick. Player of the game, not really anyone you can point out. The standards for Everton are so low that I'm going to give the player of the game to Arnaut Danjuma because, simply put, he was the only player that seemed to have any bit of fight about him. Obviously, try to take on the defence and actually force them to do their job, something that we seemed pretty inept at doing all throughout the game. Villa had an absolute field day, a nice relaxing afternoon. Their backline were absolutely feasting, and Danjuma at least made a few little problems occur for them, if at all. But there were a couple instances where he popped up at the back end of the first half. The first one was one where they sent it up to him up top, and obviously in typical Everton fashion, that is in the nature of isolation. He was by himself, and he was probably by himself for about 30 seconds. No one even looked remotely interested in trying to help him out and give him that little bailout option. He basically had to take on the entire playing field by himself. And then you also have the second one where he tried to make shit happen, and then there was a nice little 1-2 with, I think, Nathan Patterson. And obviously he had to take that one from a ridiculously acute angle. And obviously there was no one really cutting back or in the position for a cut back to basically score a sweaty goal. We saw how Villa did it the first time with their goal. And we just simply don't have that attacking nous. The ability to navigate smartly in the penalty box. We just have absolutely none of that. And to talk about the midfielders first and foremost, I think they were missing for large portions, if not the entirety of the game. You know, Onana, Idrissa Gana Gueye just really missing. Not really helping out attacking-wise, just staying way too defensive. And then even in those defensive positions was still a liability because the ball was just bypassing them at every single opportunity. I think someone on Twitter really summed it up well when they said that when we were dropping back, Villa were able to pierce us defensively. But obviously when we tried to press and employ that sort of game plan that we want to play, if you could really even say that, we still are able to get manipulated and just bypassed. So every single plan we had just hit a wall because there was simply no solution. There was no threat about us at all. As you say, usually the ruthlessness was lacking. We were toothless. We were lacking any form of fight. It didn't seem like we were motivated out there. So I'm really stating the obvious, but obviously the center of the park, the heart of the team, the midfield were absolutely nowhere to be found on both ends. It was way too easy for Villa to get it into their wide areas. I mean, Luca Digne had an absolute field day on the left-hand side there for them. We were just far too concerned with clogging the interior, that more centralized part of the park. But even in doing so, as we mentioned, they were able to pick us apart on those corners. We were allowing them to, you know, a couple short passes, chain a few passes together, and be able to scope out the box from a much more advantageous position as opposed to being tucked away right where the corner flag is. So that was another thing that was pretty flawed, and we didn't seem to want to rectify or even showed any willingness or desire to rectify that. And I think that really summarises how the game went today. A lot of things that weren't working continued to not work purely because of our ineptitude that we've shown in so many facets of the game. We can also talk about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That is just a really sad story, if we're being quite honest. He just can't get a proper run at it. It's like hitting someone with a crutch while they're in a hospital bed. It's basically torture. Let's be real here. Like, every single time DCL works his way back into the contest, there's always something bogging him down. And obviously this time it was because he couldn't see. At least he will be back in the short term, but it's just those little moments that we need players like Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the team to just provide any scent of attacking threat. Obviously, without him, we were sort of lacking in that area. I really want to see a Danjuma DCL partnership with Danjuma out wide and DCL in the middle, because I think a fair bit could manufacture from that. But obviously, we're going to have to wait a little while to actually see that come into play. Now, we can talk about wingers a little bit here, because I think Lewis Dobbin, obviously, when he came on, was a really shining light. He also was trying to, manufacture a little bit more than what we were trying to produce in the first half, simply by trying to take on the defender and really drop the shoulder. We need to get rid of these aging players. And I know Sean Dyche has an obsession with them. He's known for that kind of obsession. Idrissa Gana Gueye, I think, needs to go, because we're really compromising ourselves in terms of the lack of creativity. James Garner's out wide. Iwobi even is out wide. Obviously, he's out injured and will be for a few weeks. But we're really compromising ourselves, because these guys can't operate being so segregated to one side of the pitch. James Garner is better when he's got a wider periphery to work with. And same with Alex Iwobi, as we saw under Lampard. Having Idrissa Gana Gueye in the middle when he's not really providing anything and is getting bypassed way too easily, it's not going to result in a very good day at the office. I'm really, really happy to just have Onana sitting in front of the back four, because quite frankly, we're already getting destroyed in the back half. So we might as well take a bit of the pressure off by being able to create a little bit more forward of the ball, so then we can actually ensure that the duress is lowered. So I think that has to be a play and has to be under consideration for the next few weeks. I mean, Dobbin has to play, Danjuma has to play, probably both out wide, especially when McNeil and potentially, if Nonto comes to the team, Jack Harrison, when he returns, will have a little bit more flexibility, and we can probably afford to play Garner and maybe Iwobi in the midfield to sort of send more of our chips into the attacking half, simply because we have a little bit more quality there. But for the moment, I think changes just need to be made. Obviously, the Michael Keane experiment, it just has to end. Has to end. Jared Branthwaite is sitting on the side. Surely, even if he does just as bad a job as Michael Keane, at least he's developing and learning from the experience. Michael Keane is not learning. I mean, if 5 or 6 years isn't large enough of a sample size, I don't know what is. Because every single time this guy plays, we concede. And concede in numbers. A little stat for you is that we've conceded 2 goals a game in the 20 games that Michael Keane has started under Dyche. In the games he doesn't start, there's only 8 of those games. We have only conceded just over 1 goal a game. And we've actually taken 13 points from 24 when he doesn't start, as opposed to only getting 8 points from the 36 games he has started. So there's absolutely no merit in Michael Keane's play. There's no reward, nothing. We have seen it time and time again. And yes, it's easy for him to be the scapegoat, but it's about time. The sample size is just way too large. And basically all the other backline players are shitting bricks every time they play with him as well. Ashley Young, I don't think he's made such an uncharacteristic error in years of his footballing career. I mean, he was probably one of our better players in the opening 20 minutes. It went from that to me saying that I can't defend him because obviously we had shipped off 2 or 3 goals, and then to me saying, what the fuck was that? When he threw it in straight to the opposition. It was like one of those fucking prayers of a throw. if that's not even English, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's like a plague. This is a plague that just riddles the football club and has been doing so for seasons. It's no coincidence that the same personnel are resulting in the same issues. And as much as Dyche is to somewhat blame, when you look at all the other issues, the recruiting, the lack of depth, I mean, Dyche is grasping at loose straws with this playing squad. So it is what it is. I mean, I can't say I'm surprised because we're a team that has a bunch of inconsistent players. So to say that we're surprised when we play inconsistent, I mean, that wouldn't make any sense. But this is baffling to me. Let me just say that we had months to rectify these issues, and we have been the complete opposite of reactive and proactive. We haven't really gotten enough players in. The centre-backs have never been replaced in Mina and Cody. The front line is still lacking. We had Chamidi playing, well, he played a couple minutes in the reserves game, I believe, the practice game earlier in the week, but obviously sitting on the side, and I understand that because he needs to develop. But, like, we just don't have the reinforcements required to just provide a little bit of stability that this team desperately needs. So I'm not looking forward to next week when we play Wolves, because that is a huge contest, and best believe you know that we do not step up to the challenge in big moments, and that more so occurs in the earlier parts of the season. We only decide to wake up when there's something larger at play, and that is our Premier League status. So at the moment, it looks like that's going to be in tatters by game week 15, but we'll see how we go. Make sure to let me know your thoughts. I've got nothing else to say. I'm pretty flabbergasted. So we'll see you for the next match review. Regrettably, I have to do these every week. Well, I don't have to. It's a conscious decision of mine, but I'm probably stupid for doing it. So that'll do it. Enjoy the rest of your week if you can, and we'll see you this time next week for what hopefully is an Everton win. See ya.